IVM.
Hey everybody, quick request once again, if you could help us out by filling out our survey. It's at ivmpodcast.com/survey. This really helps us talk to advertisers about the kinds of people listening to these shows. Really do appreciate your help, and we're going to be doing a random drawing, and we'll be sending out some IVM swag. Hope you enjoy that.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Simblified, that podcast where we make you appear wiser than you actually are, which doesn't take a lot of effort in our experience, if you know what that means. But
did you just start out by insulting our listeners?
Yeah. Total. This is like MTNL marketing department. So, like, the individuals are nice, but the policies are so bad.
I want to listen to your podcast. Please stand in queue and apply interplicate and stuff like that.
Yeah, apply interplicate. Where is your domicile certificate? You don't have. How can you?
Yeah.
So today's diving straight into our jolly episode today is all the wonderful ways in which the world can end. And
how cheerful.
Yeah, very cheerful. And so first of all, small spoiler, the pandemic route is one way for the end of humanity, but not for the end of the world. So there are two.
You're talking about the end of the planet itself, not
the planet itself. Yeah, the end of extinction of humanity is a small subset. And there are many interests. So if the Earth ends, humanity will end too, assuming that we don't have the auto rickshaw service to Mars as.
Yeah, but clearly you haven't considered Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, kind of.
Yeah, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is one possibility. Yes, so there are two possibilities. The world may end, and humanity doesn't, and the other way is, of course, that humanity ends. World carries on just like it.
Sure.
Both, of course, are very jolly topics for.
Yeah. I mean, whoever was listening and didn't drop off after the first insult, now they're like, tis the season to be jolly, and we're talking about the end of the world. So I think we've lost all of them. So. Yeah. So
now, very important question. We have to take a very important decision as podcasters, responsible podcasters with the, sort of weight of millions of listeners on our shoulders. Is, do we take the end of the world first or end of humanity first? So I think we should take the end of the world first.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Because I don't know, it sounds more important. So first is, the possibility of an asteroid hit. So it was an asteroid hit that more or less wiped out dinosaurs 65 million years ago.
Yeah.
And it's classified as a low probability event. An asteroid of that size coming and hitting Earth. Low probability means it happens once in 65 million years.
Okay.
So
and the last one 65 million years. Cool.
But it's a low probability.
Right.
But what is scarier is we are far more likely to be hit by smaller asteroids, and they can be pretty lethal. They're probably not entire population wiping out level lethal, but they're pretty bad. So there was one event at a place called Tunguska in 1908 in Siberia, where 100-meter in diameter actually, which is not very big if you think about it, about as big as half a cricket stadium, landed, and it was like it devastated some 80,000 kilometers of forest around.
Wow, okay.
Just flattened the place, and being in Siberia, and it was rush hour on a Monday morning, so 3 people died. But yeah, that happened. Some in Malad West, you can just imagine what the outcome might be.
Hmm.
And more recently, in I think 2015, there was one in a place called Chelyabinsk in Russia, where a much smaller, this meteorite was just 20 meters in diameter when it started off. And that actually, that also was, it sent shockwaves. So it didn't land. It burned out in the atmosphere. But the intensity of the heat created a shock wave, a pressure wave, which really broke, buildings, things like that.
It's like the universe ate Andhra food and then...
Absolutely, yeah. One big burp.
Let one rip. But don't we have the technology now to, say, break up these asteroids and things like that?
Yeah, so apparently not. So it's very, very small asteroids you can't detect because you can keep observing them. And they have a very clever way of observing. So they have automatic cameras all focused at one segment of the sky, and that keeps taking photographs. And it's it's got AI to detect movement, and it can extrapolate trajectory. So it can sort of judge if it's coming towards the Earth or not.
Okay, but you're saying it's very small.
So very small ones and very far away.
And,
so some will slip through. It's like the U.S. immigration problem, right? So they got all these walls, but the Mexicans are still coming.
Yeah, now we can make jokes again. No, now it's not cruel or anything because it's gone. So
So the smaller asteroids are very hard to observe, and you're very likely to miss them. They are simply too small. 20 meters at like 100 kilometers or 200 kilometers out is almost impossible, right? And even the large ones, with the ones you can detect, if you find them coming, there is nothing you can do. Like people think about sending a huge missile and sort of hitting it and smashing it into smithereens or changing its trajectory or things like that. We simply don't have the technology to do that. We don't have the technology to send a missile that far, that accurately, and with that power.
Okay.
So it's just not. It's best to sell off all your property and hope for your
To whom?
Quickly flash deals, like those Alibaba, AliExpress flash.
Okay.
So if an asteroid decides to be on collision course with Earth, humanity is probably bought it, but life will continue. Life on Earth will continue. There are all kinds of small creatures, microbes, extremely, creatures which live in extreme environments. All of those will probably continue.
Right. But do you know what happened when the last asteroid hit? Like, was it only the dinosaurs that got wiped out, or?
All the big fauna got wiped out, and the small mouse-like mammals, which sort of lived in burrows and deep inside caves and things like that, they survived.
Okay.
So the
equivalent of a nuclear bunker also won't help us in such a scenario.
It could. I think it could. So
invest in bunkers is advice from Naren and Tony for the new.
Invest in bunkers. Find a nice bunker. I'm imagining all Rahejas and Lodhas, the luxury bunkers.
In engineering college, they all call me bunker as like an insult, but now we know like bunkers is what will save you.
A bunker was someone who skipped classes from the wisest of motives for non-engineering students. So that was, that's the good news from the asteroid thing, that you probably can't escape. But we have hope that if you're one of the privileged few who can afford a nice bunker in a good Lota or Paheja development, then you will probably make it.
Interesting.
The other thing is, I mean, if that doesn't happen soon enough, the sun orbits the Milky Way, as we know, and sooner or later, some stars may approach close enough, right? So the sun has something known as an Oort cloud, which is about half a light year away from the sun, which envelopes, it's an icy, it's a spherical region full of icy bodies. And if another star wanders, or the sun wanders along with all this, its entire troop wanders close to another star, and the gravitational field is perturbed, there could be a 40-fold increase in the number of comets reaching the inner solar system. Like the Oort cloud is where all the comets come from. Oh. And sooner or later, one of these comets is going to bang into.
What's the difference between a comet and an asteroid?
So asteroid is a rock which is pretty much it's in a regular orbit around. It's in a belt. It's an orbit around the sun, and it's sometimes, because it's a small object, it can leave its orbit and start drifting around. And a comet is an object which has a highly elliptical orbit around the sun, and it's so Halley's comet famously comes once in 70 something years, right?
76 years, yeah.
So those guys, some comets are small, some comets are pretty big. It has a core and it has an icy tail, and the core is variable. So it could be a heavy, big mass of a core, and it's got extremely high velocity on its orbit. So if it hits the Earth, it's likely to rip right through. So if a comet hits the Earth, you are going to have one big gaping hole, and there I don't think the nuclear bunker is going to save.
So it's a proper Bollywood villain with like a cold heart and fiery exterior, and just rips through your family. And
except that it's you after, not your hero. Otherwise, Bollywood villains are very considerate. They either want to sort of be after your girlfriend, or there's something very benign, not like the comet.
Yeah. Yeah. To one you say, come at me. To the comet you probably say, go away.
Yeah. Blogs will have a comment section.
Listener actually said that recently the puns on Simplified are not cringy enough. So I think
we have to plumb
oblige. Yeah. Which brings us to point number 3 of how the world could end, which is puns on Simplified. Sorry.
Yeah. Actually, that's one way. So one scenario is Simplified. Everyone listens to Simplified, and we come out with such a terrible pun that everyone spontaneously self-destructs. But in that case, you and I will probably be the sole survivors.
Yeah, in Hitchhikers, there is a theory that says if anyone discovers exactly what the universe is for and why it is here, it will instantly disappear and be replaced by something even more bizarre and inexplicable. And there is another theory which says this has already happened. And I think Simplified is proof that all the puns in the universe have already been made. And then it has instantly disappeared and been replaced by something even more bizarre and inexplicable. So that's the level that we are aiming for, basically, right?
On the jolly note, we go to the next item on the world destruction agenda, which is a supernova explosion. So a supernova, as you know, is a cataclysmic explosion of a star. So a star sort of smaller, and I can't stay so close to my relatives anymore. And it's really, really huge. The explosion is really huge. And there are all kinds of cosmological things behind it, which would take an episode on its own. But the thing is that it happens, really far away, which is why it doesn't affect us. So most supernovae have exploded like thousands of light years away. So everything has been fine. But the thing is, if it explodes at something like 25, 26 light years away, it will demolish your ozone column. So we have a ozone layer around the Earth, which stops all the harmful UV lights coming in. And that's basically, UV is like a destroyer of DNA. DNA is what all of us need to live. So if you don't have a UV layer, and if you get all your cosmic radiation straight, it'll just demolish life on Earth will be over.
Okay.
So it's basically, phytoplankton, the small celled creatures that live in the sea, which are the basic blocks of the food chain. They basically take in all the sunlight and they sort of grow, and then something shrimp or something eats it, and then that's how the food chain starts. If the if the ozone layer vanishes, they'll be the first to go, and that will collapse the entire food chain. So a supernova explosion is another candidate.
So it doesn't really hit the Earth's surface or anything, but basically like destroys the outer layer.
Yeah, I mean, if it happens very close and it obliterates Earth, that is guaranteed to wipe out all of us, bunker or no bunker. But this is a possibility. It's not very probable. It is roughly has the same chance as RCB winning the IPL.
Wow.
One in a few hundred million. That's the problem.
This is the same amount of chance as Naren making a sports reference, which is happening.
Yeah. That has happened now. So another 300 billion years, no more sports.
But if that happens, technically it'll destroy the layer only over like one hemisphere or something, no? Or like using
actually, logically, the facing side should go to the other side. But I mean, we'll have to, when it happens, we'll know for sure. So just hang on.
But this is also observable, right? Like what stage stars around us are in. So
that is observable. And so far, there is no candidate star close by. So this is, but even supernovae are hard to observe till they actually burst, till they actually explode.
Okay. It's like Twitter canceling someone, is it? Like suddenly, like it's the
suddenly happens.
And suddenly one day you're cancelled. So the universe
And you don't even know why it happened. All you know is your ozone layer has gone away. Phytoplankton is in a mess. So another jolly way in which we could all go is something called gravitational perturbation. So,
sorry, gravitational what?
Perturbation.
Okay.
So, like you get perturbed, right? If I tell you something, if I tell you that RCB is likely to win the IPL, you're perturbed. Yeah. So, gravitational perturbation is like that. So, we all have this high school picture of Earth going around in nice circles around the sun, and then Mars going around its own circle. But the fact is, all these circles are affected by gravitational pulls of other bodies too. So if something happens by chance, there's another heavenly body close by, your orbit just goes out of kilter.
This is true for all of us, right? Like whenever there is a heavenly body near us, we are slightly thrown.
Yeah. So in our case, it's such a long time back.
This is true. Yeah.
But sticking closer to the subject of gravitational perturbation. So you can simulate these things. So it's in the realm of something called chaos theory. So chaos theory, it has probabilities. It can't give you exact solution. It can't tell you when it will happen. It can just tell you possibility. There's this famous book called The Three-Body Problem. So the three-body problem not the bow, but the problem itself is that if you have three objects in a gravitational system, then you never know when one of them will just collapse and fall on the other. It becomes a chaos. Two bodies is simple, and three bodies is very chaotic.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yes.
As anyone who has attempted a threesome will certify, which is definitely not us, but you know who you are.
Now, I think our this thing will be banned on hound grounds.
On, yeah. Yeah.
So gravitational perturbations could, basically the TLDR is, other bodies exert their gravitational influence and Earth becomes, pried loose from its mooring and start drifting around in space. And
I'm imagining that jealous girlfriend meme now, like that guy and girl are walking and then there's another.
Yeah, and you look around, it's
that system is going to be perturbed at the
Then there is another jolly way of everything going fast. That is, it's called a loss of the oceans. So
loss of the oceans.
Yeah.
Okay.
So part of the Earth's system is we have a mantle under the crust, and the ocean sort of goes into the mantle, and it sort of evaporates, comes back into the ocean. You have these deep sea vents where all this happens. There's a whole universe going on there. Basically, the Earth sucks in the water and it throws it back. That's what happens. And the thing is, what if it stops sucking the water? I mean, what if it starts throwing it back? It sucks the water, but what if it starts giving it back?
Yeah.
About 27% of your modern ocean goes into the sea. And if you don't do it, if nothing happens about it, it becomes an equilibrium state where only 65% of the current surface reservoir, it stays on top. And like this is not going to happen next Tuesday, so you're cool. But the time frame is such that your solar luminosity increases constantly. So if it's 10% higher and the volume reduces, a time will come when your average global temperature will rise to about 50 degrees centigrade, and the atmosphere will become what is called a moist greenhouse. And that will lead to a runaway evaporation of the oceans. So when soon, like in a few 100 million years, 1.1 billion years, soon enough, it'll end in all the seawater vanishing. There'll be no oceans.
Wow. Okay. On the bright side, we'll have lots of salt.
Yeah, lots of salt, lots of real estate. So so very long-term real estate purchase. I think the pro tip is not to invest in real estate too much because we have a lot of real estate. Square foot rates will come down.
Finally, yeah.
And lots of salt. So Tata Salt, sell all Tata Salt shares. So the next stage, which is the jolliest, my favorite, is called the red giant stage. So apparently the sun, when it starts, used up all the hydrogen inside it, which is what it uses as fuel. Its core starts to contract and the outer envelope expands, and the sun starts swelling. And as it starts swelling, the total luminosity keeps increasing. And it takes about billion years or so, but it reaches finally 2,730 times of the sun's current luminosity. And this will happen a mere 12.16 billion years from now.
Oh, okay.
It's very soon. And so I urge you to reconsider all your vacation plans. Right?
But is there a stage in between where, like, let's say Mars gets warmer and potentially has, can create life?
I'm guessing that if it swells up that much, even Mars, your rickshaw service has to go further. Oh, very far away. And there is a small chance that you and I won't be around to see. Yeah. But in case we are, we need to be worried. Yeah. So that's about all the major ones. There are a lot of little tiny ones too, but they're not that interesting. So I left them out. So these are all the major causes for the world ending, Earth, the planet Earth ending. But even before this happens, there are some nice, jolly ways in which humans can destroy all human extinction. Yeah. So one is, of course, a pandemic situation that we're going. So luckily for us, the current pandemic
is improbable, right? Like it'll probably never happen in our lifetime.
Yeah, it's probably never going to happen. It's just impossible. Let's not even discuss it. Pandemic, no way. But in case it does happen, there are two possibilities. One is an organism which only affects humans, like the one we have now, and that can't wipe out all humankind, because as it starts wiping humans, it has fewer and fewer people to transmit itself to. So assume you have an organism which is 100% lethal and it has no cure, and one person passes it to another and dies, and that person who's got it dies again. But as people start dying, it will be harder and harder for that organism to find new hosts. So it is highly unlikely that a pandemic like that would be able to wipe out humans.
Right.
But if it can coexist in animals and in human beings, then sooner or later it'll reach every remote settle. It'll reach Tibet, it'll reach the Sentinel Island, it'll reach the McMurdo station in Antarctica, wherever, it'll reach it. So that is a possibility. So people think that it is possible to engineer an organism like that. So you can build an organism, and I'm sure there is a grant in China which is right now doing this exact thing, if you ask Trump. And so it is possible, but highly, highly unlikely. The larger possibility is climate change. And a lot of scientists, while they acknowledge climate change is pretty serious, and it's about 30% of all species that exist today are at the risk of extinction in the next 100 years, which is pretty huge. I mean, they call it the Holocene extinction, and it's pretty bad. And that's mostly because of habitat destruction, and it is not enough to wipe out life, or definitely not to wipe out human life. It'll be a miserable life, but life will still go on. So that is unlikely to wipe out
something to look forward to, but
the best chances of wiping out are actually the nuclear holocaust scenario. So, but the nuclear holocaust will have to happen simultaneously all over the world, because in the current situation, it's unlikely that every single human being will die.
It's like the world over, like crazy people have to come to power simultaneously.
Yeah, and all of them have to be the last people to die. They have to have enough energy to press the button and then sort of bring the last.
Yeah.
So boom, boom, boom. It has to happen all the time. It's tough, but I'm sure they can sort of, with good planning, it could happen. So we still have And the most interesting one that I found, the second most interesting one is a misuse of nanotechnology. So you have something
nanotechnology.
So you have little nano level organisms or robots that can actually molecular can do molecular manipulation. So it basically, 1 trillion of those robots land on you, and then they start sort of dismembering each carbon hydrogen bond, and suddenly, Tony Sebastian is basically reduced to a pile of garbage. But in the case of Tony Sebastian, you'll know. But there are a lot of people. Yeah, you won't be able to tell. And second, the coolest way is you have a physics experiment in which you're trying to make a black hole, and you get like a tiny black hole, and then it starts sucking everything in, and before you know what happened, everything has imploded. So that's the coolest way to go, and it will happen anytime now. In a physics lab right now, experiments might be going.
Basically, it's like adding your racist uncle to your WhatsApp family group, and then like
totally guaranteed to make the WhatsApp group. Yeah.
But what about like artificial intelligence and robots taking over and stuff like that? Like, is that?
Yeah, that's another one. So that's it wasn't makeable enough. So the idea is that you give rise to a bunch of super intelligent beings who are intelligent enough to build more of their own kind, so they don't need humans. And when they finally figure out that humans are, the kind of people who have fun-filled podcasts and all, there's really no hope. They're all going to be exterminated. Yeah. So
the first symptom of such an end would be like podcasts suddenly vanishing.
Yeah. So next time, like next week, if you can't listen to your Simblified podcast, it's probably happening. So yeah, that's a roundup of this cheerful topic.
Very cheerful.
I'm sure you will all go about your daily chores with a spring in your step, knowing that.
Knowing that none of this is possible, like a pandemic or like your podcast going away or anything. So be rest assured, right? Like nothing will happen.
So time to sign off. This week. Yeah. Stay safe, stay non-extincted, and stay simplified.
Probably non-extinct.
Yeah, probably.
Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed that show. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Once again, just a quick reminder, please do help us out by filling out our survey. It's at ivmpodcast.com/survey. It really does help us figure out who's listening and, what are the characteristics that we can go and push to advertisers. That is massively helpful to us. Please, please, please do help out with that. So, on the network this week, let me start with a quick milestone. It's the 100th episode of Begin the Journey with Ashish Vidyarthi. Congratulations to Ashish and the team. Great show. If you're not listening to it, he talks to you about just how to approach life. It's just very, very cool stuff. Do check this out. Want to mention the note with Maruk Inayat. She talks about why petrol prices are so high. On the Wire Talk, Siddharth speaks with Harsh Mandar. On Advertising is Dead, Varun speaks to Kabir Biswas, the founder of Dunzo. They have a really interesting conversation about, what's the future of Dunzo and what they're thinking about. On the Traveling Professor's Diaries, check out Siddharth talk about the performance paradox. I found it really fascinating and interesting. I think that you guys will really get something out of listening to that. Please do give that a listen. And finally, let me mention Zindagi Diaries. It's Ragini Kumar's poetry podcast. The first week when it came out, we put out 5 poems first week. We put out another 5 poems this week, and the response has been phenomenal. Do check it out. It's in Hindi. It's a poetry podcast. Something a little different. Do give it a shot and let us know what you think. And with that, I hope to see you again next week.
2020 is a difficult year. A global pandemic, protests, elections, recessions. You get the picture. What we need is a space where we can have nuanced discussions about global affairs and foreign policy. That's where I come in. My name is Hamsini Hariharan and I host the States of Anarchy podcast. Every second Tuesday, I speak to experts in the field of international relations to make a little more sense of the world. So join me on the IVM podcast app, website, or wherever you're listening to me right now.